The draft format is so much fun, largely due to the neat text and lesser used Pokemon thriving in a meta where they're not seen as much in standard singles play. Due to you guys killing it in the last list video and hitting a like goal of 25, today I'll be telling you guys the most underrated Pokemon of each type in the draft format. The main way I chose these Pokemon wasn't necessarily using cheap Pokemon only when it comes to their price. I more so chose to choose them based on how often I see them drafted, whether that be in Natdex leagues on Showdown, or in Galardex Wi-Fi leagues. The main goal of this video is to try and convince you to give these Pokemon a chance in your upcoming leagues. If you guys do enjoy the vid, be sure to drop a like on the vid as well as sub. We're on our way to 1,000 subs, and I'd really appreciate it if you help us along in getting that goal before Scarlet and Violet. I'll also be doing a giveaway of a couple Scarlet and Violet copies before the games come out, so be sure to sub and stick around for that. If we hit 30 likes on this, I'll drop a video on the best Pokemon you can draft in tier 5 or under 5 points of each type. Let me know what your favorite underrated Pokemon in draft is in the comments below, and let's jump into it. Buck is going to be a Pokemon that I just recently got a chance to draft in an Oras League in Mega Heracross. This thing is the definition of power with base 185 attack. No one needs that much attack. This monster hits 515 attack at level 100, dwarfing everything else in the meta. On top of that amazing attack stat, Heracross can throw off big bullet seeds or rock blast with skill link guaranteeing 5 hits. It can also SD to rip through balance and stall, or even the niche option of spikes. Despite this, it doesn't often see play in many leagues due to its pretty mediocre speed tier. That's definitely fair, but when you take into account this thing's bulk, I think it more so than makes up for it. Especially considering you often need nowhere close to max attack to do the damage you need. You can leave some pretty ridiculous hits very easily, such as Mega freaking Deancey Moonblast. It does particularly well with good momentum and speed control. I drafted Orlando T and Latias and have been loving it. Definitely give Heracross a shot if your Mega Gallade and Medicham are already taken. Dark is going to be yet another Pokemon I just recently got to try for the first time in Hoopa Unbound. It seems really weird putting Hoopa here, considering there was a time where Hoopa was actually banned in a lot of leagues. Over time, people began to realize it was far from broken with its bad speed tier, physical bulk, and a 4x weakness to one of the format's most prevalent moves in U-turn. This realization slowly morphed into people thinking that Hoopa was bad and never drafting it, which I could never understand. This Pokemon is so ridiculously strong, with base 160 attack and 170 special attack, making it one of the best pure wall breakers in the game, especially if your prediction game is good with a banned or specs variant. It can always make up for its lackluster speed tier and a choice scarf, or even flip the switch and run a Trick Room variant against faster teams. Its move pool was immense as well, from both the physical and special side. It even has decent defensive utility with great natural Spadef stat, allowing it to function well with an Assault Vest. Hoopa isn't broken like the people who played in the formative years of draft thought, but it's much better than Switch Zoomers give it credit for. For Dragon, I have a Pokemon I feel super fell off in Gen 8 in Drotagon. That's not to say it got worse, it just seems like it gets drafted 10 times less than what it previously was. This thing has insane low tier utility. It's a great rocker despite not being the typical stealth rocking type like Ground, Steel, or Rock, grants speed control with Glare, has 3 great abilities in Mold Breaker, Sheer Force, and Rough Skin. And it has great offensive coverage, which allows it to be pretty darn scary in a Wall Breaker. And it has great offensive coverage, which allows it to be a pretty darn scary Wall Breaker in the right matchup with a Life Orb Sheer Force variant. It really does symbolize low tier value and can patch so many different holes for so many different drafts. Xurkitree was definitely nerfed this gen. The loss of Z-moves, Hidden Power, and Tail Glow stuck a huge dagger into this thing's price and viability. However, it is still extremely useful for the price point it's at. Sometimes you don't even really miss Tail Glow, considering that base 173 special attack. Regardless of resistances, not much wants to take a T-Bolt or Volt Switch from this guy. On top of that, you have great coverage at Energy Ball and Dazzling Gleam for grounds, and dragons that would typically stuff your stab moves. You still have a way to boost your special attack and Calm Mind if you really need to as well. You still have a great way to boost your special attack and Calm Mind if you really need to, but Beast Boost will usually cover that. To make up for the loss of Z Hypnosis and Z Electric Terrain, Xurkitree can even run a gimmicky Blunder Policy set to boost its speed and sweep. Xurk doesn't have the same game-ending ability it used to, but it can still punch a sizable hole considering its cost. The most underrated fairy in my opinion is Comfey. I love the utility this little guy offers. With Triage you have some obnoxious priority in Draining Kiss and Synthesis, making Calm Mind sets super annoying. You can also Leech Seed down passive checks and chip them away, and gain recovery in the meantime. You can U-turn for momentum, defog hazards, encore Lockmons, and of course, set up Calm Minds and win games. It can be pretty underwhelming in the bulk department, but it offers great utility and can win games on its own, if not prepared for sufficiently. Big Hairy Yama. I love using this absolute beefcake. 144 HP allows you to spec pretty heavy into either bulk, making this thing pretty fat. And with access to thick fat, it becomes a great makeshift ice and fire resist, and a great assault vest user with its very solid coverage across the board. It can also go more offensive with 2 other great abilities in Sheer Force, and especially Guts. You do not want to play with a Guts Hariyama under Trick Room. You can slot a bulk up and belly drum for setup potential as well, and its great coverage allows it to hit would-be checks and ghost psychics and fairies with knock, bullet punch, poison jab, and heavy slam. Hariyama isn't just a low-tier fighting type. It's a great strong pivot and a potential wall breaker for fatter, more passive builds. I'll say it, Senna Scorch is amazing. For its price point, this Pokemon is so annoying to switch around in conjunction with Leech Life, Fire Lash lowering defense, and Power Whip to punish waters. You can set up with a Coil, burn things with Will-O-Wisp, or keep your longevity with Rest and Sleep Talk. Speaking of longevity, Heavy Duty Boots really give this thing its viability, allowing it to avoid a 4 times weakness to Stealth Rocks. I never thought I would have Senna Scorch on a list like this, but I've been pleasantly surprised each time I've used it in Gen 8. The most underrated flying type is for sure Staraptor. This Pokemon always seems so freaking hard to fit onto my drafts, but when I do, it's a freaking blast. It only really does one thing, but it does it so darn well. That one thing, of course, is clicking Reckless boosted Double Edges and Brave Birds. Whether it be Scarf as a revenge killer, or Choice Band as a pure bringer of utter carnage, this thing exists solely to click buttons. It also has U-turn to chip things down and grab momentum, and CC to break through normal and flying resist. I have seen one other really cool use of Staraptor from my good pal Panther back in Gen 7 in the finals of LVC, with an Intimidate Pursuit Staraptor. I'll try to remember to link that vid below, definitely go check it out. But that's really it. Staraptor is hard to fit, but if you can, have fun clicking your buttons. Ghost has got to be Dewey? Yeah, that's how you say it. All jokes aside, Decidueye is a great budget glue piece, giving you a solid ground resist, momentum, removal, setup, priority, and so much more. It really seems like it has the ability to slot into most builds and do its job with ease. The amount of times this thing has helped me blanket check a few mons is pretty crazy, and I definitely recommend you give it a shot. Breloom is one of my favorite grass types, and I really wish more people gave it a shot. It's obviously ridiculously strong with Technician boosted Bullet Seeds, Force Palms, Mach Punches, and Rock Tombs. If you combine this with a Sword Stance boost, you can smash through a ton of teams. It also has access to one of the most broken moves in the game in Spore, allowing to get a guaranteed 100% sleep on anything that's not a grass type. This makes Breloom unbelievably annoying to deal with and switch around. It can also serve as a solid Edgequake resistance with a defensive Poison Heal set. Loom is an absolute monster if you find the space to fit it. Ground is going to be one of my absolute favorite Mega Pokemon to use in Mega Camerupt. This thing is an absolute monster. Sheer Force Fire Blast, Earth Power, and Rock Slide gives this thing almost perfect coverage. It also gets rocks and is a great check to higher tier electrics. It also gets rocks and is a great check to the higher tier electrics of the format like Koko and Zeraora. It's tough to justify grabbing it over the other broken megas, but you won't regret it if you do. I recommend grabbing it with Rillaboom for the terrain recovery and nature powers that will turn to Energy Ball for bulky waters. We have another slept on Mega Pokemon for our next pick in Mega Glalie. While it definitely misses return, Refrigerate Body Slams and Facades are nothing to scoff at. Double Edges are something else though, and it can be an absolute nuke in the right situation. It also gets Spikes to Hazard Stack, Ice Shard for a priority, Freeze Drive for fat waters, and even Earthquake for bulky steals. Then of course, I wouldn't be doing Glalie justice if I didn't mention that it can go Boom for a Refrigerate boosted nuke. It's a very fun, very offensive low tier mega that deserves more recognition.
Oh my god, have you ever heard of the most amazing, greatest normal type ever named Licky Licky? It has Wish, so it has a reliable way to heal itself as well as provide support to its teammates. It's very bulky and able to stomach even fairly strong fighting type attacks against it. It has plenty of coverage options, so it can be made to deal with most offensive threats as a blanket check. But wait, there's more. This Pokemon gets Oblivious, which means it can't be taunted and is not a passive Pokemon and setup fodder. This amazing Pokemon can be yours for only $19.95 plus shipping if you call right now.
Venomoth is definitely one of the most underrated poison types. This thing has insane endgame potential with Quiver Dance plus Tinted Lens, but it never seems to get picked up. Now I won't lie, losing Z-moves is pretty brutal for it, but it can find more setup opportunities with boots and cool tools like Sleep Powder, and then just go for broke. I also have to give it a shout out as Scarlet and Violet are going to be the first games that feature the Venomoth line in its regional distance freaking Johto. So maybe it'll have some viability in the upcoming format. You go, you little, moth you. The most underrated Psychic type is for sure Galarian Slow. I mean, Azelf. I always preach on how much I love this mon. It has an amazing speed tier in 115, as well as incredibly strong attacking stats in 125 in both its attack and special attack. This, in conjunction with its amazing coverage and access into a boosting move and nasty plot, allow it to punch massive holes in an overwhelming majority of teams. On top of that, it can play a fast offensive supporting role very well, with access to great utility moves in Taunt, Encore, and Stealth Rock, as well as U-Turn to pivot around. This immense move pool allows it to act as a great Scarfer, Breaker, Sweeper, Suicide Lead, and a great diverse pick for most any team. I know I keep using Mega Pokemon on this list, but listen, they're cool. Plus, I feel like a ton of these Pokemon don't get the chance to shine like they should. The next such Pokemon is Mega Tyranitar. On pure stats alone, this thing is an absolute monster. It has an insane base 164 attack, allowing it to push through almost anything. On top of this, it has a base 150 defense stat and 120 speed stat, allowing this thing to be the definition of a tank. In conjunction with its phenomenal move pool, this mon can either smash through teams offensively or sit on the entirety of a team with ease. I think the reason Megatar gets slept on is because not a great sand setter for drill or sand offense because it can't hold a smooth rock. However, I think it offers great value to pretty much any other style of team. In particular, it thrives on balance. Definitely give Megatar a try in your next league. Typically, we think of bulky, sturdy pivots when we think of steel types. And for this reason, we don't typically see Pokemon like Lucario drafted. I think that's a damn shame though, because with proper offensive positioning and aggressive play, this thing is an absolute menace offensively. It has so many offensive tools. It can be physical with access to Swords Dance, it can be special with access to Nasty Plot, or it can obviously be mixed. It also has phenomenal priority options in Bullet Punch, Vacuum Wave, and Extreme Speed, making up for its mediocre speed tier. It lacks defensive utility, but if you can cover the resistances you need with the rest of your draft, I think Lucario is more than worth exploring. Lastly, we have Water, and for this, I gotta go with Big Lantern. Electric Water is a phenomenal typing, as made evident by the ever-popular Rotom Wash. When you pair this typing with the potential of either having immunity to either Water or Electric and Volt Switch, you have an amazing pivot. Lantern typically gets very free Volt Switches as well, considering ground types that would block them are risking getting absolutely nuked by a stabbed Water move. It has a very high HP stat, allowing it to function as a great Assault Vest pivot, but it also has cool options in Heal Bell, and even the occasional Agility Sweep. Plus, it's the best Scarfer in the game. If you're looking for a good low-tier bulky Water or a general pivot, Lantern is your guy. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I think we touched on some more sleeper picks. There might have been some that you're like, I draft all this all the time. That's fair, but at least in my experience, a lot of these Pokemon I don't see drafted very often, so I wanted to, kind of highlight them and talk about them a little bit. And yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the list in the comments below. Let me know what your favorite Pokemon to draft is that's, typically not picked up and is a little underrated, in your opinion at least. And yeah, drop a like if you enjoyed, sub if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.